Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
This is the best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey. I have no idea what we just heard.
Well, we get callers that call in and do the open for the show.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what that laugh was at the end.
That's the part that's sort of disrupt. Yeah. I mean, Mike, you spend all this time, you get the energy together, you put the thought into it. A lot of guys, script that stuff. They get ready for it. That's their one shining moment. The laugh at the end kind of, I don't know, like that's it.
Did that blow it for him?
That's what we get for outsourcing it, though, because this is what we've done. It's sheer laziness on our part. We've opened the phone lines up to the fans and listeners of this show to essentially write that open for us. So we have to deal with what comes with that.
I don't have a problem with that. I like having the input by others. So at least if it sounds bad, we can just say, well, we didn't do it.
I like that you say lazy. I like to think of more of it as it's inclusive, right? We're being all inclusive. We're letting everybody be a part of the Golic and Wingo process,
But lazy fits better.
Well,
fits the narrative a lot better.
It insulates us, too, because if it's bad, first off, then you blame the person who called in. And then if it's really bad, second off, we just blame everyone behind the glass over there and say, well, you shouldn't have cut that.
Boom.
I mean, that was the one we picked. Again, Golic and Wingo, Mike Golic Jr. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests appear on the show. Pennzoil Performance Line. It was a dynamic night last night in sports.
Yes, it was. Which we're certainly going to get to. It was also a dynamic morning with Devin, was it not?
Man, a lot happening. Because you're right, you come in charged up off last night, and then you forget that, oh, by the way, we've got someone on this show who's probably dealing with a little less energy than usual, and B, some mild trauma after paying off his bet from our March Madness tournament.
So we'll touch on this a couple of times, but we'll do it now. Devin Bubble Boy lost the NCAA bet by, you were just horrifically bad.
It got destroyed.
It was horrid. So we were gone. Mike, you and I, we were in Africa when they did this bet. So you had to sleep in my office last night, and you weren't allowed to sleep on the couch, and you slept on the couch, correct?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm willing to let it go because of your honesty. And then you had to put the product in my hair this morning. So anybody watching on ESPN News, when you see my hair this morning, usually Hopi, who does a great job as our makeup artist, she showed Devin how to apply the product into my hair. Fitz was sitting here watching it first. Fitz, out of you?
I mean, let me be honest here. It takes a lot to, I'm usually the one that makes people a little uncomfortable. Right. I like to hug, Mike Jr. too long in the calf, that sort of thing. I was the one for the first time that I was sitting here and I was like, I can't tell if this is like a weird kind of like a guy that's really not comfortable with cats and he's trying to pet the cat, but he's afraid the cat's gonna
claw him or something.
That's sort of what it felt like. It was very strange.
How did so you applied all the product to my hair this morning?
Listen, I finally believe all the hype. Your hair, it's as good as everyone says it is.
There you go, as advertised, huh?
It really is.
He got in there too. Not gonna lie.
So that's what I wanted to hear. So Devin says your hair good as advertised. If you had to grade Devin, how would you grade his ability?
He started out a little shy about it. I get it. I mean, I don't think he's ever put product in another person's hair before. And he started out a little, I'm unsure of this. Hopi taught him very, very well. By the end, I mean, he actually was doing it and said, you know what, I need a little more. Here, I got to do this side of it. So he jumped into it, and I was very impressed. Devin, I have to say, I was very impressed.
And now, so between that and then Fitz as the third party watching all this, your vantage point on this, how would you grade Devin's skill and Dad's, I guess, liking of this?
Devin, again, the cautiousness, it's going to cost you a letter grade on it. So, Devin, you were okay.
I understand.
I can't figure out how you aren't the loser in all of this. Basically, what I've heard is that Devin just trashed your couch last night.
Yeah.
And now he awkwardly pet your head for several minutes.
I awkwardly pet my head. I haven't really gone through my office to see what may have been wrong with it, but
at least it was only light petting.
I'm going to check that out. So, Devin, good job.
Thank you.
Have you washed your hands yet?
I did multiple times. It's not
still
working.
there.
Yeah, it's still there.
Going to last a while. Sorry about that.
There's no easy way to do this, so we're just going to do this.
It's time for Off the Top
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
with Golic and Wingo.
The Timberwolves defeated the Nuggets 112-106 in overtime in the vaunted NBA play-in game. They get the final playoff spot. They eliminate the Nuggets. Nuggets head home.
How great is this, though? The last game of the season it comes down to, and it goes into overtime. So, listen, I'm all for every game counting, and I know, as I've said, in an 82-game season, a 162-game season, you kind of throw away games here and there. The whole issue last year in the NBA about resting at certain times, and they tried to take care of that this year with a few different ways to try and do it. But it still comes down to game 82, and then you go overtime. But good for Minnesota. Longest playoff droughts in NBA history. They were at 13, second most. The Clippers from 76 to 91 at 15 years. So it was the Timberwolves at 13. And how about this for Minnesota sports? For the first time in Minnesota sports history, baseball, hockey, basketball, NFL teams all made the playoffs in the same cycle. So good for that city, good for that sports city there, and good for Minnesota. Even though they A-seed, they're going to take on Houston, who's the best team in the West right now, but good for them for getting in.
And you mentioned the quality of the game that we got last night. I saw this tweet from Tom Habistro. All 4 Minnesota-Denver games this season have been tied at some point in the fourth quarter. So This was on brand for the way that this matchup had been all season. And now for a team that I think most people would have said they expected more from, kind of akin to the 76ers in the Eastern Conference. A young team, guys like Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins there, coupled with Jimmy Butler's veteran presence, probably expected a little more from, and maybe got that from like the Utah Jazz, but still found their way into the dance.
I think you make a great comparison to the 76ers. That's a piece of this that's going to continue to happen because we look at the youth and we feel like they're supposed to be on some plane where they rise together. I will say it's a broken system when in some ways you can say, congratulations, you won, which means you now get to get swept by the Rockets, while the Nuggets at least have a chance at a high draft pick.
Yeah, I get that, but when you're the first out of the playoffs, I know that the percentage goes down a lot, even though they tried to even it out as far as the lowest of the teams, and I think that kind of backfired on them. But I'd like to, Jason, look at the big picture. Look at the younger teams coming along. Minnesota, the Bucks, the Philadelphia, which we're going to talk about, obviously, as well. You want to call him, we're not kind of, Anthony Davis is still young. It seems like he's been in the league for 10 years, but imagine if Boogie Cousins didn't get hurt, what they might be doing right now. So we keep talking about Houston and Golden State and Cleveland. Is it going to be Toronto or Boston? But there's a few other teams out there in both conferences that I kind of really like where they're going in the future.
I also think they're great, I call it counter-programming for everybody that hates the, oh my God, all the dream team, everybody just goes plays with the mega teams. There are young teams that are building things the right way that you can look at and say, hey, I'm going to latch onto that. It's worth rooting for.
Off the top.
We will now go with our MVP moment of the week, brought to you by Sports Clip. Check in online at sportsclips.com/check-in and claim your spot today. That belongs to Russell Westbrook, who entered Wednesday's season finale against the Grizz, needing 16 boards to become the first player in NBA history to average a triple-double in multiple seasons, and he did it.
I mean, come on. It was this the surest bet there was going to be of all time, that he needed 16 rebounds to get where he needed to go, and he got it, obviously, rather easily. He got his 16th rebound with 9:18 to go in the third quarter. His stat line ended up 6 points, 20 rebounds, 19 assists. Was there any I would boxing out his own guys. I mean, seriously.
Oh, a great highlight of him boxing out Melo last night.
He was absolutely going to get his rebounds and now get that second consecutive season of averaging a triple-double, and nobody seems to care.
No, history is going to be much kinder to Russell Westbrook than the present is on this, because we get so used to turning things over and so jaded pretty quickly when stuff like this happens. That guy got his 6th rebound with 9 minutes left in the third quarter.
Yeah, 16th,
And you know what? I have no problem with him wanting it. People are going to kind of mock that idea that he was going after this and this alone. Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double for the consecutive season, helped improve his team's playoff slotting this year. They were the 6th seed last year. They're the 4th seed this year in the Western Conference. did something that no one else has ever done. When we look back on this historically, it's going to be much more impressive than we're willing to give it credit for now.
I think part of the problem for the Russell Westbrook triple-double is that there's two pieces of it that have changed the conversation. One is last year when he averages the triple-double, and it's such a historic moment, we spent so much time debating whether or not that makes you an MVP. So we already lessened what that stat means over the course of the last season. And then when you talk about the super teams I just referenced, there were expectations on OKC. And I think that when you see that Oklahoma City hasn't necessarily played as well as people thought, combined with the fact that we've already cheapened what that stat means, it lessens the entire experience of what he's accomplished.
You know, and in my opinion, I wonder if it was harder to get done this year. Because last year he averaged, 30 points, and the next leading scorer on the team was Oladipo, I think, with 15. This year, I think he averaged, 26, and there was Paul George with 21. So he was sharing the ball a little more, and as you mentioned, Mike, they got a higher seed as well. So I wonder if it was actually more difficult this year, and basically nobody's paying attention to it at all.
Up the degree of difficulty in almost every way. Ho-hum. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Is there anything that reasonably changes that, though? I mean, no. I mean, this is now the new standard he's set. So it's what we're going to just expect from him.
And again, in 20 years, when we're looking back on the next guy that gets close to this, we'll say, man, you remember when Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double in back-to-back seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Off the top.
You mentioned Philadelphia. We do have to mention it. The 76ers blew out the Bucks, and I mean destroyed and demoralized Milwaukee. 130-95 for their 16th straight win. That's the longest win streak to end the regular season in NBA history.
Understand, a month ago, the 76ers were a game and a half ahead of the final playoff spot. And I would say they've changed that a little bit with where they are sitting at the 3 seed right now. I'm going to take on Miami. We'll get more into the playoffs. But how about Markelle Fultz? Gets a triple-double, the youngest player to record a triple-double in NBA history. This is a guy that we wondered was a bust if he was a draft pick. Couldn't get on the court, played early, then missed a ton of the season with the shoulder. We saw videos of that shot. It looked horrific. He comes back, and he's making more layups. The second game back, he breaks Joel Embiid's eye socket. He has to get surgery. Got to thinking, oh, my God, 19 years, 317 days old. He is the youngest to record a triple-double.
What a confidence booster. Yeah. And if you're Philadelphia going into the playoff run, that's exactly what you need in lieu of Joel Embiid being healthy right now, is the rest of your guys to be confident to the point of almost blind confidence, because we've heard it talked about, the Philadelphia 76ers, the people that take them seriously and the people that don't. And the people that don't, and Amin El Hassan, I know, was on with you and Sarah on Spain and Fitz and said they've got no playoff experience with their star players right now. One of those things, being young and dumb to the point where you don't know what you don't know, is basically the only thing the Sixers can hope to get by on right now.
It is alarming, though. I mean, we were sitting there watching the game last night, and you looked over and thought, man, is that score is that a misprint? Is that correct? I mean, they absolutely destroyed Milwaukee on a night where Ben Simmons only played 22 minutes. Yeah. I mean, you have to start, at some point we have to start looking at this and saying, no matter who they played in this 16-game win streak, a lot of people want to trash the quality of opponent. I understand that. But they've beaten everybody. The margin of victory going into last night, I think, was 13 points per game. Going into that during this win streak, they're destroying teams, whether they're good or not.
Let's see how much we all buy in when we do our picks for the NBA playoffs, and just see how far we have them going.
We're doing that a different day, right? So I can get out of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Off the top.
Speaking of playoffs, the NHL playoffs started last night. The Penguins were 7-1 favorites to win the Stanley Cup before the season. The best odds in the NHL, according to Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. They opened last night with a 7-0 thrashing of the Flyers.
Yeah, ridiculous. 7-0. They have played, they were 5-0 against the Flyers this year, and they scored 27 goals on the way to do it. Sidney Crosby with the hat trick gets that backhanded out of the air, baseball bats it in, was an incredible goal. So congrats to them. Congrats to Winnipeg. The Jets beat the Wild 3-2. It was their first playoff win in franchise history. They were 0-8. Since the franchise began as the Atlanta Thrashers back in 99, and the Golden Knights just keep doing it out in Vegas. A 1-0 win over the Kings. They score in the first period, and the goalies are both really playing well. I thought it was going to be a higher scoring game than this, But the Golden Knights 1-0 in the playoffs.
Yeah,
now.
it took them a lot shorter time period to get their first playoff win. They just figured they'll get all the firsts out of the way in one season. And it was cool. We were watching the game last night to see that city. You talked about this, fourth in attendance during the regular season, but embracing the moment. You've got the pregame concert going on outside the arena venue, really trying to get people away. I know Fitz is mad because he feels like they're trying to bite Nashville swag.
No. I like it. Hey, that's that flattery here. Like, go ahead, take everything you love about the Nashville Predators and just integrate it. I'm from Vegas, so I like to see my current home and my original home, loving it in some symbiotic relationship there. A 1-0 win, by the way, the first shutout for an NHL team in their first playoff game since 1968. So the Vegas, at some point we have to stop saying the Golden Knights are an expansion team and just accept the fact that no matter who plays in goal for them this year, they've won and they continue to look good. So give them a little credit. Also, cool emotional moment last night. Ryan Shazier at the Penguins game, he was there. He stood up and led the crowd in a "Let's Go Pens" chant.
What a story that is. Yeah, see where that one goes too.
I mean, to see the embrace of that player in a city that we know loves their sports teams, loves the Pens especially, but to see maybe their favorite Steeler right now and a guy in that moment, chills.
Yeah, very cool.
That is off the top. We managed to make it through the whole off the top and not even talk about the most dramatic thing that happened last night, which is obviously a WWE match disguised as a baseball game, as the Red Sox and Yankees sort of got everything rolling again in dramatic fashion. We're sitting there in a bar, we're watching everything, and watching the Yankees Red Sox is always exciting. But then it took an extra step as they decided they were all going to brawl.
Yeah, it did. Third inning, what was it? Tyler Wade laid down a bunt, and Tyler Austin took off for second, and Brock Holt was the shortstop that was covering second base. Tyler Austin slid in. He was going to be out, but he was trying to break up the double play. He slid in late, and the cleats were up. And all of a sudden, Holt took an exception to it. That first one was really nothing. That was kind of an address exchange for Christmas cards. Everybody ran out there, but nothing really went on. We'll get into what happened a little later in the seventh inning. But they went to the review for the umpires, seeing if it was an illegal slide. And they were going to give the Red Sox a double play. And it wasn't. It wasn't considered an illegal slide. And I have to say, Mike, they were correct. I have the rule here about the slide rule. It says the slide rule prohibits runners from using a roadblock, which he didn't do, or attempting to initiate contact with the fielder by elevating and kicking his leg above the fielder's knee. So while you start to read it, initiating contact with the fielder by elevating and kicking his leg, you kind of think, okay, we're going down the road where it's going to be illegal. But that saved Austin above the fielder's knee. Didn't hit him in the knee. He hit him in like the calf, ankle area.
Catfish.
Catfish. So no call, legal slide according to the umpires, and we move on until Austin gets hit in the seventh.
Because he had every other box checked on that one. Spiked around. He was ready ready to go. You saw that, and I mean, this is one of those where you talk about spirit of the rule all the time, because this is designed to prevent injury and prevent things like that. And this is still an area where, now some will argue Brock Holt could have done more to protect himself in this instance, but this is still an area where you could have seen a very bad injury in this spot. And you're right, it did sort of light the powder keg that exploded later on.
Yeah, it lit the powder keg, and then this is what it sounded like later.
And it hit him. Austin slammed his bat on the ground, now heads toward the mound, and he's ready to swing. He and Kelly go down on the ground, both benches empty. We have a brawl in Boston, and the brawl is going on. Austin had slid hard into Holt, and so Kelly hit him with a pitch, and Austin charged the mound.
Look, there's payback and there's payback. You don't hit a batter there throwing 98 miles an hour. You just don't do that. That's his life. Never mind his career. That's his life. Are you kidding me?
That's the Yankees radio network on the call. He gets hit with the pitch, and he just went for it right there.
Listen, Waldman really...
That's his life.
I mean, I guess I would say that more if the ball went at his head. It didn't go at his head. I mean, that's normally where you get a butt shot you hit some guy in the butt or the ribs or something like that. Or probably not the ribs, really. Caught him in the back of the elbow, though.
Yeah, I looked more like, to me, like the back of an arm, like a lat. I didn't realize he was Achilles. Like, I didn't realize your life now resides near the kidney.
That might have been again, if it was at his head and he had to duck out of the way, that was a little much.
Life.
Yeah,
well, it initiated a straight all-out bench-clearing WWE-style Royal Rumble. And that's all. I keep saying Royal Rumble because if you're me and you're 40, you remember the Royal Rumbles when I was a kid when Andre the Giant was there and was just taller than everybody else. And he just stood there where everybody fought around him and he just stood there and looked around and was like, who's going to bring it, right? That's what it felt like last night as we found out that another superpower of this Yankees team is that they have two massive gentlemen that just stand above everybody.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. When the second fight got going, like I said, the first one was just, hey, how you doing, and then the whole deal. The second one got going a little bit. And when you get Stanton and Judge jumping in the middle of that, it's like, okay, I'm going to kind of rethink if this thing really gets active right now, what I want to do.
Their goons got goons. Like, if you don't want Judge, they can just roll Stanton out there and be like, I'm tired today. I said, we said last night, floated this idea, we should almost do it like the movie Troy, where each side just picks one champion and you just send him out there. They're the only team that's got a backup champion that's just as good as the other guy. Like, okay, you don't want him, we've got Gigantor here too.
Yeah, this is what Brock Holt said afterwards about the brawl.
As soon as you see Judge or Stanton come in there, I think they were one of the first two in the first scuffle, and I start backing up at that point. So, no, it's fun. We're playing hard. They're playing hard, and it's just part of it.
It kind of reminds me of that. Like I come running at you, Mike, and I'm like, you know what? Let's talk about it.
But I like Joe Kelly. I think you have Joe Kelly, right? The pitcher. So he hits Austin. Austin slams the bat down and goes at him. And Joe Kelly's like, okay, I'm not having any of that.
Yeah. You guys have that? So this is what he had to say.
Yeah. Someone comes into the property and in my backyard, I have two dogs and ready to, come to my property and, I'm getting attacked and I'm going to have to defend myself.
Which automatically makes us think of...
If you want to throw down in fisticuffs, fine. I've got Jack Johnson and Tom O'Leary waiting for you right here.
That's just awesome. There's two dogs. I mean, I heard you talk about this morning. His actual dogs, he was naming his fists. His two dogs were his fists. So that's an Anchorman reference right there.
He gets props for that, but as far as actually being ready to go, no. Joe Kelly is Brock Holt without options. Joe Kelly backing away and just hoping to God that Tyler Austin was going to fall on his own face.
Tyler Austin leaned. He leaned like an old lineman dipping his head.
He leaned, and you know what I would say Joe Kelly did? He backed off and tried to make sure that he didn't get more than a glancing blow in all this. So I'm not buying the tough talk out of Joe Kelly. Brock Holt is the only one out here telling truth. Joe Kelly just didn't have options.
Wait. I'm just going to stand up for the little guy for a second. You two will never know what it's like to be the little guy at the bar that runs your mouth and then it maybe gets a little bit too far. Right. I've been that guy. So there's strategery in how you sort of back up from that and you get your way out of that, but still talk.
Can you get me Will Ferrell one more time?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
If you want to throw down in fisticuffs, fine. I've got Jack Johnson and Tom O'Leary waiting for you right here.
Golic and Wingo.
And Wingo.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr.
Yeah, so the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the Philadelphia Flyers. As a Flyers fan, we can recap Modern Family. There was a new episode for that. It was pretty good. The movie channel has Miracle. I think that's a really good movie. And it's about hockey, so that's kind of cool. And, yeah.
Wow.
More amazing hockey analysis. You guys can hop on that train. 860-506-5505. That's the number if you want to leave us the Stanley Cup playoff. Voicemail, 860-506-5505. I'll challenge all Preds fans out there. Let's just load the whole thing up with it.
Giving you other viewing options other than Pittsburgh and the Flyers. Penguins winning 7-0, as Jason just said, in SportsCenter. They played 5 times in the regular season. Pittsburgh beat them all 5 times and scored 27 goals. So it has not been very competitive at all.
No, it's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Mike Golic Jr. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey. Mike and I actually were talking a little bit about this last night as we watched that go down. Like, there's just a point in a game like that where you just say, hey, we're going to live to see another day. I mean, when you blink and suddenly you're down 5-0 at that point in the second period, it's like, I don't even know how you process through that.
It's what we were talking about last night because you've been a part of plenty of games, as have I, where you're just getting blown out. You recognize very quickly. And Fitz asked me an interesting question. How do you go out there and continue to, what do you keep playing for? And I said the answer is simple: self-preservation, especially in sports like football and hockey.
Absolutely right. I was thinking when you were mentioning it, I was going through my head. That's exactly. It's twofold. Number one, there's a pride factor of just the fact that in our sport of football, you're going up against somebody, especially in our positions, one-on-one every single play. So there's a pride factor of can you beat that guy? And then there's the reality factor of also every play is on film. And no matter win, lose, or draw, you're going to watch that film as a group with your coach. You're going to get graded on it, but more importantly, your peers are going to see that. So there is an awful lot of self-preservation is a perfect word. Pride is a great word of just competitiveness of saying, okay, the whole game is over, the war is over, but my battles, man, they still have to go every single time full bore or I'm going to get embarrassed.
We'll see where that pride comes in the next game in that series for sure, because Philly's got to do something different. Time for a little fun with Over Under.
Over,
Under with Golic and Wingo.
Over and Under brought to you by Grasshopper, the entrepreneur's phone system. Run your business from your mobile phone. See how it works at grasshopper.com. So you know how this works. We're going to get we're going to get some things. Brett's going to read us some items. We'll decide where we are on Over or Under.
What a shocker. Brett is going to be on air reading it. Mike, who do you think idea was that?
I have to imagine it's a pretty strong sell in the meeting here.
Yeah, by Brett.
Nicely done, Brett.
That was Allie's idea.
Based off the success of things like Brettomology comes Brett reading more on air.
Thank you for your kind promo.
Yeah.
All right, first one. Over under 3 games the Warriors lose in the playoffs. They lost 1 last year.
I think it'll be over that. I think, in the first round, do I see a sweep? I don't know. Steph's out. They're certainly not playing at their best right now. Could the Spurs actually steal a game or two from them, which would set them up for obviously more rounds to go through and losing more? And obviously, if they were to lose a series and be out of the playoffs, they would lose 4 games as well. But I still think they have a great shot to make it to the finals. But I do think I'll go over that. I think they lose more than 3 games.
I'm going to go well over this, too. You look back, 2015-16, they lost 9 games in that postseason. The year before, they lost 5. So last year was really the blip on the radar in all this, where you had a team that was healthy, that had added Kevin Durant, and was about as dominant as we've seen.
Yeah, I'm going to go over also, but a lot of that comes down to Portland, because they're going to get Portland in the second round. The Blazers are a better team than people want to give them credit for because not a lot of people have paid attention. Portland can steal a couple of games from them. So at that point, when you look at Houston, who I think obviously, Houston's the favorite in that series, I'm looking at least 4 or 5 losses out of this process. So I'll go over.
All right. Over under 1 lower seeded team to win in the first round. We have not had full seed chalk since 2008.
All right, so obviously the one place you go is just like in the NCAA tournament, 8-9, where 9 is still considered obviously an upset. So you look at the 4-5s, I still see the Cavaliers beating the Pacers, and it's the Thunder against the Jazz. That is an interesting one there, without question. But I'll tell you the one I kind of look at, but the Bucks and the Celtics.
That was the first place I went.
No Kyrie. I think the Bucks could have a good shot in this one. So I'm just for the few that I mentioned there, I'm going to go over on that as far as lower seeds winning in the first round. I'm going to go over and think you might get a couple.
Yeah, I'm also going to go over in that Bucks series. Giannis has been incredible this year, averaging about 33 points a game against the Celtics. He crushes there. That's a good matchup there. Utah's been better than anybody expected. OKC's been inconsistent. You'll get a steal somewhere out of this too. If I buy the argument, and I do, that there's more parity than ever in the NBA right now, aside from how much we talk about super teams, I still think that you could see a lot of these series go either way.
And down the stretch in the Eastern Conference, I know a lot of this seems germane to this particular matchup. We know the history of it by now, but this Miami team has got some older pieces. It's got a champion in Dwayne Wade leading the charge, going up against that young 76ers squad.
No, the 76ers going to the championship, Mike. Didn't you
that's
know
right.
That?
My bad.
Narrative. Forget that?
Narrative.
Hey, we haven't made our picks yet. We still have time. By the way, Brett Brown, 76ers head coach, going to join us at 8:30. You like that shameless plug.
All right. Over under 0.5 games that actually matter until the Warriors play the Rockets.
I'll go way over.
Oh, I'll go way over that as well.
I go way over on that. I think that the NBA playoffs this year are the most interesting they have been in years. And that's what I'll go back to last summer when we spent the summer just constantly saying, look, the NBA, we've got all this player movement. It's going to mean something. It has. The regular season has been interesting throughout the course of the year. It's been compelling to watch every night and see different matchups. I am stoked to watch the Boston Bucks series. I'm stoked to watch the Philly Heat series, although I think Philly's going to win. There's a lot of exciting basketball.
You know what? I'll go under. Because we can be excited for things that don't matter. We do it in the NBA regular season all the time. Christmas Day, I get excited all the time. Those games aren't really going to resonate through the ether. I mean, hell, look at the Cleveland Cavaliers team that played then and tell me what resemblance they have outside of LeBron James to the team now. We're talking about games that matter. We have been looking at these two teams all year. These two Clash of the Titans, the Golden State Warriors on top of the world, and the Houston Rockets, who Daryl Morey said were constructed to beat them. That is the only matchup that matters until we get to the finals.
You've lost your mind.
Boy, I don't know. I mean, I look at something in the East, the 76ers in the second round. Whoever they're going to play, things that are going to matter.
They can be exciting, but we're talking about I'm thinking about what matters for the league, and the Warriors being knocked off by somebody matters to the league. You can maybe argue, but I will even say LeBron James losing before the finals doesn't really matter a ton to me.
Well, let me ask you this. From the league standpoint, would you rather see LeBron and the Cavs make it all the way? The only one can make it, either Cleveland or Golden State.
I would rather have Cleveland make it.
Oh, I think everybody would rather have LeBron in the finals.
If I'm the league, I would rather have LeBron in the finals because it sets you up for the easiest way to take maximum expectation and maximum interest in him then and push it right to the offseason when he leaves.
I completely disagree. First of all, I'd rather see Golden State in the final than LeBron in the final.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. I enjoy watching Golden State play basketball. Plus, if LeBron's not in, then it at least gives us the perception that the East is wide open, and it fuels the entire summer of where's LeBron going to go. If LeBron goes to the finals, then it's going to fuel the LeBron stays in Cleveland. If he just gets knocked out in the second round, all of a sudden by, let's say, a 76ers team, not in the second round, let's say the 76ers find themselves in the final, you want to tell me that that's not good for the NBA, the perception that a young team can take the next step, and then that young team could add some pieces? I think that's good for the NBA long term.
By the way, you know where I'm from? Cleveland.
Yeah.
I want Cleveland in the final. Put it up on the poll, Allie. Put it up there. Let's get it. If only one of the two can make it, you'd rather see Golden State in the finals or Cleveland in the finals. You're going Golden State,
I'm going Golden State all day.
I think you're going to be way in the minority.
Oh yeah, no. This is going to be a joke. It's maybe the most lopsided poll in history.
You would rather see LeBron in the finals, with a bunch of nobodies.
Yes.
LeBron, Kevin Love,
then know that someone could beat the Warriors along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, no, I still think
LeBron,
that
best player in the world.
Yeah, but okay, you have one best player.
Work for? LeBron.
Yeah.
Oh,
LeBron
my God.
TV.
You'd rather see LeBron than see Durant and Steph together.
Yes.
You'd rather have
LeBron.
LeBron.
You
king.
have lost your mind.
King James.
You've lost your mind.
Chosen one.
All right.
Yeah.
Over under final one. 0.5 new teams in the NBA Finals. Basically, will we have another Warriors-Cavs?
Ooh. So this is the other side. This is asking you to put your money where your mouth is on that question. Do you actually believe it's possible?
I still think Cleveland's making it to the finals. Listen, I love the Philly story. Hell, I spent most of my career there, and I love Philly, and I think the 76ers are so on the rise. And when I forgot who it was brought up the fact that LeBron should go to Philly, before if he's going to leave Cleveland, to think about what would happen there, that really kind of blew my mind. But I love what Philly's doing, but not just yet. Not just yet. I think Cleveland still makes it to the finals. And if all goes as expected, and Steph's back by the second round, and everybody's healthy. The ribs of KD, the thumb of Clay, the little Warriors for Draymond Green, where he got kicked in them. If everybody's all healthy and everything, I'm still going to take Golden State in a 7-game series. So I'm going to say under and still say for the fourth year in a row, it's the Cavs and Golden State.
Give me part 4 only because all the things you mentioned sound like the evil ingredients to the witch doctor potion that gives you to him. Ribs of KD, thumb of Clay, knee of Steph.
And Little Warriors of Draymond.
And Little Warriors of Draymond.
Yeah, I'm going over because the Cavs aren't making the finals. So, sorry.
Well, you are all in on that, aren't you?
You know what? I drew a line in the sand a couple months ago, and I'm keeping that line.
All right, well, you're being consistent.
I'm keeping that line.
Consistently wrong, but consistent.
We all went back and forth all dang year. Every time they win 2 games, 3 games, or they lose 2 or 3, we overreacted.
Yeah.
And so I said 2 months ago, it's time to just draw the line in the sand. I'm drawn in. I'm dug in. I'm like a stubborn married man at this point. I'm just making my point.
Do you think Golden State Do you think Philly makes it in the East? Are you picking them?
It's too early to tell. It's too early to tell. What's more overrated, Russell Westbrook or grilled cheese? We'll answer that pressing question next.
Golic.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night, no doubt about it.
And Wingo.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Jason Fitz in for Trey, sitting here with both Golics. It's Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. Russell Westbrook did the impossible last night, again, in averaging a triple-double for the second consecutive year. He needed 16 boards. He got it in a little over half, essentially. He basically went out, and you could tell that was his objective, right? That was what was going to happen. In fact, I think the lowest point total of the year for him. And not surprisingly, because you can't get rebounds if you shoot.
Was it 6 points? I think it was 20 rebounds and 19 assists.
Yeah, so basically he's throwing the ball out and then he's getting down to get the rebound.
Right,
so he was a determined man to get the stat. And I think the junior has made a good point today when he says that maybe in recency won't appreciate this enough. I still feel like because last year the whole debate was, well, he's averaging a triple-double, but is that really worth an MVP? I think we sort of lessen the impact of it. So while we see it, the other side of it is OKC hasn't been all that great. I mean, if I'm an OKC fan right now, I'm looking at it and saying, my God, what does it take? I mean, because they put pieces around Russell. This was supposed to be a step forward. It isn't. So you have a guy having a fantastic year and the team's still only okay.
Well, I'll say this. They're seated higher than last year. They had more wins than last year. I would ask the question, is the triple-double average this year more impressive than last year because he has a guy like Paul George? Again, he averaged 25, George 22. Last year he averaged 30. The next leading scorer was Oladipo at 15. So he had nobody else out there. And so he's doing everything by himself. Was this year's triple-double actually more impressive than last year's triple-double?
I think so, just because last year we were under this guise that he needed to force everything. Now, this year, there was a bit of a difficulty at the beginning of the season. We remember where Paul George and company said, we need Russ to still go out there and kind of be that guy. I think Carmelo even said it. We'll work around him. He's still going to be the guy around here. I think there's parts of it, obviously, in the assist side, when you've got more weapons, it makes it easier to dole it out with a bit more confidence, and you saw the points per game drop off. But I would absolutely, and to do it this second season, understanding, that maybe you do naturally take that breath once you get more help for it to still be such a natural part of his game.
So I would ask you then, Fitz, go back to last year, because I don't know how you were through it. How impressed were you with what he was doing last year in talking about it? And now he did the same thing this year. Are you as impressed?
No, I'm not as impressed. But I think that's because that's human. That's natural human nature. We get used to it. Like, we'll use Brady or LeBron as the example. You start to look at what they do, and while we say, oh my God, look at how impressive this is, LeBron at his age doing this, it's really cool. It doesn't impact the same way. It can't impact the same way. When you've seen it so recently, I don't think it can have the same level of impact. And I think all of that's marred from the fact that Houston brought their big three together, and it's been so great. And OKC, not on Russell Westbrook, I think more on Carmelo Anthony, who's been particularly dreadful the back third of the season. They just haven't delivered. So now you're looking at it and saying, well, maybe it isn't as meaningful because they aren't some epic team coming in, even though he's doing great things.
And that's why I think history is going to be kinder to this moment, because we're overstimulated. We're overstimulated in almost every sense of life, but definitely in the NBA, so we might lose sight of this. But how long was this the synonym for Oscar Robertson? Where we said, man, that guy averaged a triple-double for a season. This is amazing. 20 years from now, we're going to look back and say, Russ did it 2 seasons in a row. Right. And we're not going to remember the team that may have lost, like the Houston Rockets might in the title this year, or necessarily MVPs, because we give one of those out every year. We'll remember the guy that did something that no one else has ever done.
It's a fair point. Let's get to more important things. Obviously.
Yes, absolutely.
It's National Grilled Cheese Day.
Yeah, it is.
And I just found this out.
It's National Grilled Cheese Day, people.
Make it nasty.
There's a place in Nashville called the Grilled Cheesery. It started as a food truck, and now they've got a couple brick and mortar locations, and they just make swanky grilled cheese all the time. And it's sort of my great indulgence.
Are you a regular? Do you put anything
I don't need
else?
anything.
You just want the grilled cheese.
I just want grilled cheese. Don't like some Allie earlier said, bacon on the grilled cheese.
Well,
that's
there's bacon, there's a tomato.
I don't need any of that.
There's ham.
No,
how about you? Anything on it with you?
When you put ham on it, for me, it ceases to become a grilled cheese. Then it becomes a ham sandwich.
Ham sandwich.
Once you put a meat there, then it kind of skews it. Now,
why is bacon not a meat?
Well, bacon's
not a primary meat to a sandwich.
It's like a meat garnish.
Unless you go BLT, I guess it could be. Yeah.
See?
I guess there are ways around it,
I saw alternate breads get thrown in because you can do different types. Garlic bread grilled cheese.
Ooh. That sounds
You just no makeout sessions after that.
No, you're going to be a little toxic. Justin Craig, our boss here, had the audacity to come in and ask and posit that grilled cheese might be overrated.
And he was immediately kicked out. He was immediately told to leave the room.
I'll take the opposite side. Grilled cheese is underrated.
I could eat grilled cheese every day. Now, I have said the old question of if you could only eat one food every day, what would it be? For me, it'd be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But I could easily go grilled cheese.
Jelly? Like peanut butter and peanut butter, apple butter, maybe peanut butter. But peanut butter and jelly.
Apple butter.
Wait, excuse me. You're saying something about the peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
No, sir, I am not. No.
Okay,
we'll go.
Because your name's on the show.
We'll go bury you next to Justin right now. But
right.
The grilled cheese overrated. We need to put that on the company email chain and see what people think.
Can we do that now? Just restart it for anybody that didn't see yesterday.
We doing this again?
It's hundreds of emails.
Golic and Wingo.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold. It's very interesting where that went.
Let's pick your brilliant mind, Adam. Adam Schefter joining us.
My endless mind.
Right. Joining us in studio, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contract. Odell Beckham Jr., you reported yesterday, no longer, it sounds like not going to be traded. Was this in your mind? Was this because they just couldn't get what they want for him?
I think that's a lot of it. I think if they could have gotten the price that they wanted, I think they would have been more open to doing it. I think that they were ripe to deal him if the right offer came along. Mm-hmm. But it just didn't happen. And you saw the Rams go out and trade for Brandon Cooks, so that situation kind of went by the wayside. Other teams had spoken to them, and the Giants had wanted at least 2 ones. Who knows if they would have gotten that, but I don't think they ever would have settled. Like, I thought eventually they might take a 1 or 3, but it wasn't the point where, they felt like they had to move this guy. It was something, okay, let's see what's going on.
Happen?
Yeah,
right.
exactly. Yeah. Let's see what's out there.
Right.
And if it does happen, it does happen. But it's not like we have to move Odell. Like you see certain teams say, okay, we have to move this guy. They were never like that. But I thought once it got rolling like that, I just thought it had enough momentum that eventually they're going to trade this guy. That's what I thought. But it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. Now, look, something could always change.
Sure.
We'll see what happens here. But I think in his mind, once he got to OTAs, I think that kind of set into motion the next chapter, and both sides are moving ahead with each other in this relationship. But it doesn't change the Giants' predicament, which was that I think that they were always going to have to pay Odell, and I still think they're walking around that rather gingerly.
Well, and so let's go there. I think him showing up to the OTAs was a move in a good direction.
Yes.
See, Khalil Mack did not show up. And again, OTAs doesn't mean a whole lot. We see Aaron Donald held out all the way till and missed week 1 of the season. You look at guys like Aaron Donald, Khalil Mack, Zach Martin, Odell Beckham. I got to believe Donald and Zach are going to get paid this year.
Mm-hmm.
Mack and Odell, those are two that. And
see, hold on, but I think there are a few defensive players in a certain category: Khalil Mack, Aaron Donald, and Jadeveon Clowney.
Right.
I think we're looking at 3 defensive guys. I think all 3 deals are done by the start of the regular season.
Okay.
I do. Yeah, I do, and I think all 3 deals done by the start of the regular season, will be big monster deals.
Oh, I think without question, I completely
like $20 million a year.
They're going to be massive. So is the one on the outside looking in? Because I think Zach Martin's going to get paid as well.
Well, but here, Zach Martin has all the leverage there.
Yeah,
because the price of guards has gone up so much that if the Dallas Cowboys want to keep him, I think it's going to be $14, $15 million a year.
Well, Norwell just signed the biggest deal, right?
That's
so
correct.
I got to believe they could use that for the
minimum.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
minimum. If Andrew Norwell got what he got, which is $14 million a year, or $13 million, you have to go back and look at the exact number. Zach Martin is going to be able to make the argument that he deserves more than Andrew Norwell.
I completely agree.
And but Mike, the other thing is, if you're playing guard, okay, what is the risk of a career-ending injury? It's not like you're playing wide receiver and your blood and knee. Okay, so Zach Martin gets hurt and hurts his shoulder, hurts his knee. You knock on wood. You don't want anything to happen, but would he be able to come back and play at the same level next year? I believe he would.
Yeah.
What are the chances? Very low. So if I'm Zach Martin and the Cowboys don't offer what I want, I'm playing on the franchise tag for 2 years, and I'll get to the market when I'm 27, 28 and get a contract that dwarfs the one that Andrew Norwell got.
Here's where I'm going to jump in on this one. I know that guy really well, and I think he'll end up signing. I think the Norwell deal right in that area, I think he'll be good.
Get it done.
I think he'll sign. And the guy loves just to play ball. He's going to still wear the same clothes he wore at Notre Dame. He's not a flashy guy. He's a great guy. And I do think he'll look at that and appreciate that and take it. That's just my opinion on knowing the guy for all the years he was at Notre Dame. We will certainly find out. He's going to get paid a lot.
Was he in your son's year?
He was my son. Yeah, he was in my son. He played a fifth year, a year after my son. But they played together on the
4
line
years.
for a while. Yes, yeah. I mean, just great guy, and obviously one of the best in the league, no doubt about that. So that leaves Odell. I mean, what is going to happen there? Because this guy has already put the tweet out about not playing it down in preseason. So where does that one go?
Look, we saw Sammy Watkins, Mike Evans come in with deals north of $16 million. I know Odell wants a record-setting deal, but I think those guys have sort of set the market. And sort of like if Norwell gets 13 or 14, whatever the number was, Zach Martin to me is entitled to more. I think Odell is entitled to more than those guys.
Agreed.
The question is how much more, and that'll be up to those sides to figure out if they can get something done. But I also think the Giants are thinking this way. Okay, you don't want let's just make up this number, $16.8 million, $17 million a year. We'll put the franchise tag on you. And that's where it gets interesting because then Odell has to decide, do I want to do a long-term deal? Do you want to play it out to try to get another million or two or three a year more?
Right.
And it gets a little tricky. I think that's a little bit complicated there, but we'll see.
You're listening to Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN News. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey, talking to Adam Schefter. I want to go back to Khalil Mack since you guys opened the door to talk about my beloved Raiders. $20 million range, how can they afford, what's the long-term ramifications to having Derek Carr's contract and Khalil Mack's contract for Oakland?
Well, listen, teams plan for this, Jason, and it's not like the Khalil Mack contract creeped up on the Raiders. They know that it's coming, and they know they have to pay him at some point in time. So, again, whether the number is $16 million, $18 million, $20 million, that's up to them. But they will figure out a way, I believe, to get it done. But Khalil Mack is going to ask for an awful lot of money, and he's going to get a lot. The question is how much. They plan for this. I don't think it's anything surprising. They'll find a way to fit it in. That's what teams do. Every team has got these situations. You have Dallas meeting with Des Bryant this week, right? And they want to get Zach Martin done and DeMarcus Lawrence done. So who do you want to pay? Look at the Rams. They're under $1 million under the cap right now, and they want to re-sign Brandon Cooks and Aaron Donald, and Todd Gurley's contract's coming up. So there's a lot of people to pay in L.A., and Marcus Peters, not to mention. So every team is wrestling with these sort of cap issues, again, which is why it's so important if you get hit on a rookie quarterback like Jared Goff, who's on that first deal, without getting the quarterback money, then you could spend some of that money on these other players.
What do you make of the Richie Incognito retirement? Again, through Twitter and tweeting to the Bills and to the NFLPA that I'm done, and talking about he went to his doctor. For those that don't know, it was at a doctor, and the doctor said, the stress is killing you. Yeah. Your organs, the stress, or you're shutting down and this and that. So he said he's done. Do we think this is true? Do we think he is done, or do we have any? I mean, this is a guy's had some issues.
He sounded pretty resolute. He sounded pretty firm and convinced in his thinking. I don't have any reason to doubt him. If he says he's done, he's done. I think You played it in the line, right? I think people don't understand the full amount of physical toll it takes on players. I always remember when John Elway was retiring, and he talked about how he wanted to keep playing, but physically, it just became too tough. That when he first got into the league, he'd wake up, he'd be sore on Monday, and then by Tuesday he was fine. And then a few years later, he was sore till Wednesday, and a few years later he was sore to Friday, and a few years later he was sore to the following Sunday. And it got to the point where eventually, when you're old enough and you're being hit enough, you play the season in perpetual pain and perpetual soreness. And I think for somebody who's playing one of the line positions, who's banging your body as much as you are in games and practice, although not as much in practice anymore, it just, after a while, it just wears people out. It's enough.
I have always seen that about offensive linemen, and seen it from the other side as well. My son was an offensive lineman. Jake, my son, who was in Zach's grade at Notre Dame, was a tight end. They're basically right by the offensive lineman, and they're always seeing the offensive linemen are the most neurotic crew there is out on the field. And I think while it's a stressful game, it can be, that is without question the most stressful unit out there.
I want to get one more quick offensive lineman question in with you, Adam. Taylor Lewan is about to be paid, in theory, at
Another
some
guy.
point.
There's a lot of guys.
Yeah, there really is.
But so is Marcus Mariota. Any indication? I mean, there's a whole regime change for the Titans. Is there any indication on how they're moving forward or what they're looking forward towards?
Well, again, we see the offensive line market moving the way that it has. And we see the top offensive linemen getting paid more than they ever have, which is why, again, if you're Zach Martin, I know you say he's a regular guy and he'll be good with whatever money there is. But
it doesn't mean you don't like money and listen to your agent, too, as well.
But the business decision is the business decision. Right. And the money at those positions where there's a shortage of players is only going up. And so if you're Taylor Lewan or Zach Martin, whoever it may be on the offensive line, to me, you ride it out and you wait until there's a fair offer, because the money at those spots is only going up.
With that being said, aren't we getting to the point for an NFL team where you're better off trying to renegotiate as soon as possible?
Teams have tried to do that. I think, Joe Banner and Howie Roseman, they were at the forefront of this. The Philadelphia Eagles back in the mid 2000s, like 2004, 5, 6, they were signing these players, young players, to contracts way out. And what happened was, they were getting ahead of themselves. They had identified their talents on their team and signed them to deals that were so long and so heavily favored for the team that the player would get 2-3 years in, and he was massively underpaid. Teams have tried to do that for a while. It's nothing new. I think the key is recognizing your players and then moving ahead. Look, the Washington Redskins, as an example, okay? When they decided to hand over the starting job to Kirk Cousins, at that point in time, they were getting ready to sign him to a 4-year, $32 million deal that ultimately, at the last moment, they decided to pull off the table. This is in 2015, okay? 4 years, 32. They identified him as the starter. They were going to pay him before he started. Kirk Cousins would have been thrilled to take 4 years and $32 million, which, by the way, is like the salary for 1 year now.
Yeah.
But it's an example of a team recognizing whether a guy can play and taking the progressive step that seems like it's costly at the time of signing him. What you're doing as a team is you're identifying that guy, trying to sign him in advance and betting on it. You're taking a little bit of a risk, but if you're right, and the chances are you should be, then that should pay off handsomely for you for a long time. By the way, the Redskins didn't follow through on the deal. They decided not to offer the deal. Rest is history.
How about, the rest is history. We're talking to Adam Schefter. Again, his podcast, new episodes weekly, listen on the ESPN app and Apple Podcasts. So take us inside your world a little bit as this insider. How, and getting information like you have on players that are in the league. Now take us to a draft where the key is misinformation and how you can really decipher what you're hearing as true or not, because we all know that there's so much of that misinformation going on.
Yeah, well, I don't really view it that way so much as I view it as teams just not being completely forthcoming. Plus, I personally don't like to call a team and say, okay, Cleveland Browns, which of these quarterbacks do you like? I'm not even going to ask that because they're not going to tell me.
Right.
So why even talk about that? It doesn't make any sense. I don't think teams are dishonest. I just don't think they're overly forthcoming. That's the bigger issue. Rarely have I found teams just lying to you, like, oh, boy, we love this guy, and they have no plans of taking that. I don't think that's...
You don't think they want to get out information that
sure
maybe they want others to have?
Again, we've worked together 9 years.
Yeah.
We worked together more than 3 months.
Yeah, right.
But I don't think you guys are going to come in and lie to me if you know someone long enough. And so, they want to disguise what they're doing as best they can, but they do it in their own way. Sometimes teams will bring in a player to their building when they have no intention of drafting that guy, but they do it to throw off other teams, or they go to a private workout or bring in a guy that they have no intention of drafting because they want other teams to think they do. So they do it themselves, trying to send smoke screens, but I don't think they're lying to people blatantly, like when you're having conversations like, yeah, we like this guy, and they really don't. That's my sense.
Golic and Wingo.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
We're going to go to the Shell Penzo Performance Line where 76ers head coach Brett Brown joins us. Coach, we appreciate a little of your time this morning. I keep talking to NBA experts, and they keep saying playoff experience is everything, and you guys don't have it. How do you prep for something that you don't have?
I mean, sometimes, not knowing some things might not hurt you as much as others might think. I think the general comment, it is fair. If you had your druthers, you would want playoff experience. But sometimes, not knowing what you don't know isn't a bad thing. We play fast. We got a bunch of young players that are coming together, and maybe that's going to equal more of a free-minded type spirit and in a free-flowing style, I hope.
Coach, let's talk about your journey here. Your fifth year with the team. You go way back when you first started there. 19 wins, 18 wins, 10 wins, 28 wins, now 52. And we all understand the process. That term gets used so much. And from a professional standpoint, understood what's going on. But when all this was going on and there wasn't a lot of winning, how about you personally? There's you, the head coach, and then there's, Brett Brown just, having a personal and a regular life. How difficult, if it was that for you?
I mean, the pain of losing Mike is certainly real. I think at this stage of my own career, I felt confident that I knew two things. First, what I thought you needed to do to truly set up a culture and a program, and I got ownership that was patient with me and us, and what they said they've in the rearview mirror have delivered on. And I think that when you sort of just tried to grow the program and continue to develop the people, I think the injuries, hurt us probably the most and set us back the most. But by and large, we just sort of stayed true to what we thought you needed to do to grow a program. And I think in the light of day, I hope we've chosen the right things.
We're talking to Brett Brown, 76ers head coach on the Shell Penzo Performance Line. You guys are on a hot streak right now. Obviously, when Joel Embiid went down, everybody said you guys were done. What stood out to you in the 16-game win streak as the most surprising thing?
Well, we played two different styles. You played away with Joel, and then all of a sudden you don't have Joel, and we went into a real sort of speedball game, a three-point game. The connection of the dots is we played good defense, different type of defense without Joel behind the team, but we were always, amongst the top 3 or 4 defensive teams in the NBA with or without Joel. And we continue to share the ball. We led the NBA in passes. We regularly had like 30-plus assist games. And I think if you can share the ball and play defense, those are two pretty important things to carry on. And I hope that we do that in the playoffs.
Coach, you just said you play two different styles with and without Embiid. Does that make it difficult if he comes back in the middle of a series?
It's a challenge, but it's a good challenge. All day, every day, I would want that. I think that Joel is the defensive player of the year. I think when you look at the numbers, just the raw numbers of what he has done defensively and where he sort of like pivots us as a team defensively, that I will take that back all day, every day. And what you do realize at times in the playoffs, it does become a half-court game. And right now, like our strength is our speed. We shoot threes, we get up and down, but it does slow down. And I learned that my 12 years with Pop and the Spurs, like Tim Duncan at times needed the ball. And Joel provides that, and I really can't wait to re-welcome him back into our team.
Talking to Brett Brown, head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. They get ready for the playoffs. They'll be hosting Miami Saturday, 8 Eastern. on ESPN. So you're 57 years old. The first time, I think it was basketball ops when you got into the NBA with the San Antonio Spurs back in 98. Joel Embiid was born in 1994. Ben Simmons was born in 1996. How, in today's pro sports, a coach that's been around a while, deal with the youth of today, the social media of today, and just the kind of the attitude of the young athlete today?
It's really the part of this job, Mike, that I'm most attracted to. When I accepted the job 5 years ago, we kind of blew it up. You realize you actually had a chance to put your own thumbprint on your version of what is culture. And I had been a head coach for 17 years prior to coming with Pop, in the Spurs, and I'm the son of a coach. And so you really sort of tripped on this opportunity at a, I think ripe time for my own stage of my career. And these young guys are a huge part of that, and teaching them and sharing stories and educating them. And to your point on social media, you learn quickly players of all ages, no matter what, want to be coached. They want to be told the truth. There has to be some level of law and order, and trying to grow these guys. And to date, I hope we have done that.
Coach, you guys have had a lot of contribution from J.J. Redick. What's he been able to do this, and how's he been able to sort of stand out for you this year?
Just as good an example as I have coached with his routine. You see the great players that I have been around all have sort of a rhythm to their day. They really adhere to a routine. They're maniacal in sort of their day-to-day preparation and their routine. And for our young guys to see JJ's preparation, his attention to detail with his fitness, the ability to, like the NBA is all about, you got to back it up. And so recovery and your health and all that matters. And there's a rhythm to your skill package. Where do you get your shots? And he's done all of that. Plus he's been an amazing voice behind the scenes in a locker room to equal just an incredible addition really for us. And the timing of JJ coming into this team, I hope has been good for both parties.
Brett Brown joining us, 76ers head coach on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Almost as consistent as the process has been is the fact that your rookies miss a lot of their first year, if not the entire first year, or 2 years like Embiid did, and then Simmons misses his first year, and Markelle Fultz missed a lot of this year. And now, and he gets the youngest triple-double in the history of the NBA at just under 20 years old. Talk about his progression from playing early, missing all that time with the shoulder injury, and now coming back.
For me, the Markelle Fultz story is as sort of inspirational a story as I have been a part of. There's a human side of all of this that I'm just so proud of Markelle. You got speculation that's rampant all throughout the year. He's the first player chosen. Like you just said, he's not old. He's the youngest player to have achieved that number that you just said. And so to help him navigate the NBA and especially the city of Philadelphia, which is a brutal sort of sports city, and, the expectations are high, and for him to end the regular season with a triple-double, I mean, it's a little bit like your point earlier, like how do you help raise these 19, 20-year-olds? That's a hell of a story that we've just experienced, and it's growing. I look forward to seeing him play in the playoffs.
Coach, I can't let you go without at least letting you chime in on the petty wars in the NBA. You want to chime in on the Rookie of the Year thing? Is Ben Simmons the Rookie of the Year?
I mean, I've said it publicly here in Philadelphia. I don't know what national attention it has received. I feel like, with due respect to, Donovan Mitchell and Jason, like there's a lot of candidates out there. I feel like he is the stone cold Rookie of the Year. In my eyes, the numbers and the success that we have had here in Philadelphia is incredible for somebody that used to be a college foreman that is now an NBA point guard. I feel strongly that he is the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, certainly. I believe that there's no doubt it's going to be between him and Mitchell for that award. And lastly, and maybe most important, given that it's National Grilled Cheese Day, and then we also brought up peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. If you had a choice, grilled cheese sandwich or peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
You know what, Mike? It's not even close. One of my great thrills is if I can get like a great peanut butter and jelly sandwich with good fresh bread and potato chips and then the sports page. I can sit there for about 40 minutes and just enjoy myself.
Now, Coach,
That's
when I lived in
awesome.
Maine as a little kid, it was peanut butter and fluff. Like, do you do peanut butter and jelly, not peanut butter and fluff?
Yeah, no, I got out of the fluff stuff. I am exclusively if you give me fresh bread and peanut butter and jelly, I still think it's one of the elite sandwiches that we have.
Could not agree more.
Well, I'm gonna have one before the game.
Yes.
Brett Brown, 76ers head coach on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We appreciate your time, Coach. Best of luck in the playoffs.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Mike and Jason, thank you.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Golic and Wingo. Plus, you can check the guys out live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.